Today we're going to be ranking every single character in MultiVersus from how hard they are to play, from the easiest, most easy characters to use to the hardest, just genius level characters to play inside of MultiVersus. So with that, let's move straight into the beginner category, the characters that are made for new players that have just hopped onto MultiVersus, and these characters are going to be Shaggy, Superman, and Taz. These three characters are super noob friendly. They have very easy moves to use, and also with Shaggy, you basically have to spam his Super Saiyan ability and mix that with the flying kick, and you, my friend, will be getting a bunch of knockouts. And with Superman, the reason why he's so easy to use is his knockout ability. The amount of knockouts you can get with Superman is unreal, plus he's a real tank, so he won't get knocked out easily. He'll have to get knocked out in the later 160, 170, so he's a really tanky character, and mixed with his really easy attacks, he's super easy to use, and for a beginner player, he's definitely up there as one of the best. And Taz, he's just an all-round decent character. Although he's one of my least favorite characters, he's very easy to use. You basically just have to spam the tornado ability, and using that, you can do really good damage with it. And all of these three characters share one thing in common, and that is their abilities are super easy to perform. There's nothing really too complicated about using their abilities. They're super easy to use, and that's why we're going to be putting Shaggy, Superman, and Taz as our first category. So let's move into the easy category. Now, these characters are Wonder Woman, Finn, Jake, and Bugs Bunny. These characters aren't really too easy to use. That's why they're not in the beginner category. They take a little bit of time to use, but once you get used to the characters, they are super easy to start using. Now, Wonder Woman is super basic. She's getting a buff with the new update, so potentially she might go up the list, but at the moment she's super easy to use. The character just has a few things that make it a little bit more complicated. These shield attacks all are super easy to use. You can actually block projectiles with the shield, which makes it a really nice versatile weapon. And overall, the character is really simple, and this is a lot like Finn. Finn as well is really easy to use. The bag ability is one of the most broken abilities in the game currently, and also Finn's hitbox is incredibly broken as of the current state of MultiVersus. It's super easy to get knockouts with Finn, which is why he's one of the most easiest characters to use. Also, Finn's hit priority, which is basically when two characters hit at the same time, Finn really just wins every single attack. His hit priority is insane at the current moment. He's getting nerfed with the new update, but currently him and Jake, which also Jake's on the list, Jake has a insane hit priority. He basically wins every single one-on-one. If you use Jake and if you use his abilities, the amount of times you can just completely destroy your opponent with the hit priority is insane. The abilities on Jake are just insane. He's one of the most balanced characters in the game. If you use Jake, you're going to have a great time. And Bugs as well. The patch has made Bugs a little bit harder to use, especially with the new whiff recovery time for Bugs, basically making his attacks a little bit slower. So Bugs is still one of the best characters to use for startups. However, now you just need to time the attacks a little bit better, because you can't just spam, as there is a little bit of whiff recovery with Bugs at the moment, which may make the character confusing for startups. But as you play with Bugs and you play more games, you eventually just easily get used to the character. And also his bat ability, the bat swing, is just absolutely insane. The amount of aerial combos you can get is just it's insane. Bugs, he is a very easy character to use in MultiVersus. So moving into the moderate tier, this is going to be Raindog, Velma, Garnet, Iron Giant, and Batman. Starting off with Raindog, this character it's not easy to use Raindog. For example, Raindog does have a massive hitbox, just like Iron Giant, which makes him a really big target for any character, especially for characters that can perform insane combos like Bugs. You're going to have a really hard time playing against Bugs with Raindog. However, most of your time playing Raindog will be spent in the corner of the map spamming abilities, either spamming in heals, just being a support player. Now, moving on to Velma. Velma is really interesting because the character has some very interesting attacks. The first thing is that a lot of players say that Velma is really easy to use, and before the patch, yeah, Velma was a little bit easy to use. However, after the patch, well, let's just say Velma got a heavy nerf, and a lot of whiff recovery, also like bugs, has been added to Velma, so these characters aren't as fast anymore, which in turn makes them harder to use. However, Velma has been given more nerfs actually than bugs, as she's actually now decreased in weight, meaning that she's easier to knock out from 63 to 60, which means of course that when you do get hit with Velma, she will go further than she did before. Another huge change to Velma is that they've reduced grey health from 7 HP for 5 seconds to 3 HP for 3 seconds. So this is probably the biggest and the most insane nerf to Velma. Basically, her grey health before was insanely overpowered, which is why the knowledge is power perk was OP. Now it does considerably less damage, making Velma really hard to use. Iron Giant is a little bit weird because I was originally going to put Iron Giant in the easy category, but I changed my mind because the thing is, Iron Giant actually has 2 phases. The normal Iron Giant phase, which is the one with the normal abilities, and the next one where Iron Giant goes into rage mode. So when you play Iron Giant, although the character is pretty easy to use, you have to balance between the 2 play styles of the Iron Giant with the rage mode version and the normal version, so that makes it a little bit harder to use. However, the abilities themselves are super solid. Although Iron Giant isn't the best character in the game, it's not the hardest character to use nor the easiest, so I'm going to be putting the Iron Giant in a moderate. And next is Batman. Like Iron Giant, I was going to put Batman in easy. However, after playing a little bit more of Batman, I've kind of understood that there is more to Batman than meets the eye. First of all, yes, the Batarang ability is really overpowered. I get that. However, the character itself being a bruiser, you have to really get damage done quickly, because with Batman, his counters aren't too great because most of Batman's abilities are focused on damage, not really too much on getting away from your enemy. Although I will admit the grappling hook is a super solid ability. However, overall, Batman is a character that is super good to use. However, it does take time to fully understand the character, which is why I'm putting Batman in the moderate tier. The next character is going to be Garnet. Now, with Garnet, she's an alright character and she isn't really the most difficult character to use. However, there are some abilities she has that does require a lot of skill. For one, you have to charge her stronger than you ability, which can take some time and some practice to get it on point, because in this game it's very fast paced, so if you are a little bit slow, you may get caught off guard with a combo. Her other abilities are solid. The Rocket Fist is not really the best, however, if used correctly, you can get some nice hits. A good thing about Garnet is her AoE, so she can hit multiple enemies at once, which if you are playing 2v2s, it can really help you out, and it's one of the traits Garnet has that makes her a really good character. So overall, I'm going to be putting Garnet with the others in the moderate tier. So let's now move into the hard tier, and these characters are Harley Quinn, LeBron James, and Steven Universe. Let's start with Harley Quinn. Now, she's a decent character in the game, and the best thing about her character is that she's really good when it comes to up aerial attacks. Her up air attacks are super solid. The thing that makes Harley really hard to use is her abilities. A lot of her abilities are traps, and traps in this game are really hard to balance because they're really easy to dodge. With Harley, you have to really have an understanding of the game. Her movement has to be on point because you really have to get in your opponent's face as fast as possible, and then you can start doing real damage. Now, LeBron James as well, his abilities mainly consist of projectiles, although the slam dunk ability with LeBron James is really good, one of the best abilities in the game. The thing with LeBron is that when it comes to his projectiles, you have to really know how to use them. Like, you can throw it to your teammate and you can just throw it around, and this makes it so you can teleport there and do the slam dunk, and this is really good on paper. However, in execution in game, it's really hard to pull off, and it's really hard to use in game. So let's now move on to Steven Universe. Like LeBron and Harley, he has a bunch of abilities, and the thing is, Steven has really low damage. He doesn't really do too much damage output. The good thing about Steven, however, is that his abilities are really solid. The shield wall is a nice ability ability. However, to actually pull off the shield wall and execute it correctly in the right scenario, it's really hard to pull off, and it really comes once in a game. Maybe you might get it, you might not get it, and it's very hard to use Steven Universe's abilities, especially in an in-game scenario. So moving on to the genius difficulty, these characters can only be used by geniuses or people with absolutely absurd amount of skill inside of MultiVersus. The first character is Arya Stark. This character is really hard to use. The first thing is that the character is super light. So what this does is it makes it so if you get hit with Arya Stark, you're going to be sent flying, and especially against Superman, if he uses his ability where he grabs you, you're in a lot of trouble, especially in late game. You're going to get absolutely flung out of the map. The good thing about Arya Stark is her abilities are solid, and they can definitely get you some nice combos, especially the flying tornado one where she flies with her sword in the air. That one is really solid. Also, the up air is really good, and it can get you some nice KOs. And Tom and Jerry, this character is really hard to play with, especially with Jerry being AI. It's really hard to perform some attacks with Tom and Jerry, especially because abilities like the slingshot sharpshooter relies mainly on Jerry and where the AI shoots. Of course, you can also aim the tennis ball, but the thing is, a lot of this is based on Jerry and where he throws the ball. So again, Tom and Jerry is a solid character. The mullet time is super good to use. Also, the frying pan ability is one of the best up air abilities in the game by far. It's super overpowered, but the thing about Tom and Jerry is that two characters put into one character, it's really confusing when you start using Tom and Jerry. However, after a little while, you get used to the character and you can really get some nice combos and some nice KOs with Tom and Jerry. So that's it for this video. Those are all the characters ranked from easiest to hardest. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys have, smash a like, as it really does help the video spread to more viewers on the platform. And until next time, take it easy and goodbye.